All right, folks, in the absence of Mayor Graham, I will call the meeting to order. We'll do the pledge of allegiance. I'll do a roll call and then leave it up to council to appoint a mayor pro tem for this evening. So, to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right. Wendy Reed.
Here.
David Melky.
Here.
Michael Bear. Here. Kathy Macho.
Here.
So now council can make a motion, a second, and appoint a mayor pro tem for meetings.
I move to appoint Michael Behrman. I'll second.
Kathy Macho.
Yes.
Wendy Reed.
Okay.
Yes, May. Michael Behrman.
Yes.
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 David Melky.
Yes.
Motion carried.
It will move to citizen comments. If there's any person interested in addressing the council on a matter not listed on the agenda, please let us know, raise your hand. Same thing for Zoom, and we will recognize you. Just a reminder that we adhere to a 3-minute limit for comments, and please direct the council. Yes.
Good evening. Michael, mine's a little bit longer than 3 minutes.
Karen,
I'm gonna
take your name.
Yes, I'm going to. I'm going to. Hi, Karen Onfield, here. Birchwood. Like the city manager, I do not live within the city, but for the past 30 years, Harbor Springs has been my home. I run an equestrian business under the Harbor Springs Chamber of Commerce Open for Business flag. I work with We All Love Harbor Springs, a nonprofit based in Harbor Springs. I'm here tonight to ask the City Council to begin the personal education and sequential steps to decouple Harbor Springs from further RRC MEDC involvement. Over the course of the last year, it has become evident that the zoning requirements involved in Harbor Springs existed in at least 20 to 35% of the repealed 439 zoning code, if not more. We're not sure. In fact, We are surrounded by RRC towns and we will benefit from their growth. And by decoupling from the RRC, Harbor Springs can be saved from bureaucratic upheaval. It seems we are drowning in paperwork, massively long in teeth and tongue, meeting agendas, and our city planners, Beckett and Rader, and our city manager need the immediacy of the city council's guidance. If Beckett and Rader are not guided, the movie with the golf groundhog and the zoning repetition of 1 year ago will become Harbor Springs' legacy. We don't want to spend $45,000 again. Our city manager has said multiple times at multiple meetings I attended that those further involvements with the RRC is a community's choice. Why am I bringing it up tonight? It is only a city council vote that can uncouple Harbor Springs from the RRC and DC, but it has to be a community and planning commission who gives this recommendation to council. So I'm asking city council to begin this deliberation to hear our recommendation and before the building of the zoning proceeds further down the track. The uncoupling of our town from RRC certification can set us free to be an authentic town. We have learned through the WLHS research that many grant opportunities are available to Harbor Springs without further involvement. Money should not be a reason to further certify Harbor Springs as a RRC community. Recently, we met in person and by Zoom with RRC Northwest Representative Pablo Mahayano and his supervisor. We asked questions and received answers. Harbor Springs can remain as an engaged community with the benefit of good practices city manager has said multiple times are helpful and already in place. As I have personally attended each city council.
Karen, you're at 3 minutes. Can you please wind up?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Again, as I personally have attended each CCPC RRC meeting for 1 year, as an observer, it is evident to me that when one does pay attention, we as a city can do better without the RRC. Now 6 years since the community became involved, it is the city council's moment to come to the same conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Are there any other comments from our citizens that are attending the meeting? I see a hand up on Zoom, I think from Maureen Kenny.
Hi, this is Maureen Kenny, 134 West Bay Street. I would like to ask that the January 20th meeting minutes be amended in 2 sentences. Section 7, under old and new business, the first sentence says councilperson, and a last name is not included. So it says she, so that's one of 3 people that could have spoke. And then the third sentence says Kathy, without a last name. I don't know if Kathy is the council person or if Kathy was a citizen that was speaking. So I think if we can just make those amendments, that would be great. And then secondly, if a citizen comments at the beginning of a meeting on a non-agenda item, like I am doing now, their name, address, and comment is clearly documented. However, if a citizen comments during the meeting on an agenda item, there is no documentation of what the city said other than there was some public comments. Citizens need to know that their comments are heard and on public record, written, not just on YouTube. I ask that the 120 meeting minutes be amended to reflect the content of the citizens' comments after the council rules of order discussion and after the economic development strategy discussion. I ask you, Nick, is that something possible to have done since you're the recorder of the meeting minutes?
Yes, to answer your question, Mrs. Kenny, the minutes that was picked on the errors that you found in the old and new business. that was picked up on by a council member, so those have been corrected for the council to see and approve. As far as the comments made during citizen comments, yes, because they are usually something that is not on the agenda. Comments within the content of the agenda. Minutes are really built to reflect actions of council. Now, with that being said, I will do as directed by council. I can include whatever they want, and generally try not to do a verbatim. But that is up to council to decide for how they want to see their minutes.
Sure. No, that's great. That's fair. Just a summary, just so comments from the public are recorded and documented in the meeting minutes would be most appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Kenny. Any other hands up on Zoom? Any other comments in the room? Okay. Oh, okay, sorry about that.
Reed Romaine. Please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Please.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I would just like to give my support to Karen Alfield and what she said. Then I'll return my balance of my 3 minutes back.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, moving to our next agenda item is actually the approval of the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Since this is the first time we're doing this, if we need to make it, we want to make a change in the agenda. Do we do?
You would do a motion
To
to
amend.
approve, to amend the agenda, then I can vote on that.
Thank you. I move that we approve the agenda with the exception of discussion item 4F.
I'll second that.
So just to be understood, removal of 4F for tonight's agenda.
Correct.
Okay, motion in a second. Wendy Reeve,
Aye.
Michael Behrman,
Aye.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Jamie Miller.
Yes.
Motion carried to amend the agenda as stated.
Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. The revised minutes were sent out. Everyone had a chance to go over those. In addition to current bills and the MPPA energy power purchase commitment authorization. Is there a motion on the table?
Michael, we do have a hand raised by Allison Larson for public comment, and I don't know if that was from public comment earlier or for the consent agenda.
I'm sorry, Ms. Larson?
Hi, it was for public comment. Wait,
Go ahead, Allison.
okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it was for the public comment. I was just wanted to state that I support the statement that Karen Offield made. She has done a lot of research and time and effort into researching the RRC and has made documented lots of facts. And I agree and support her findings that we should get out of our RRC arrangement. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? We have I think we had we did not have,
Yeah,
we did not have a motion on the table. to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there any second?
I'll second.
Michael Behrman,
Yes.
Jamie Melky,
Yes.
Kathy Macho,
Yes,
and Wendy Reeve.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And we're moving on to our discussion items. Item 4A, Little Harbor Club Bottomlands Conveyance Approval.
All right, thank you, Nicole. So the Little Harbor Club is seeking a bottomlands conveyance. They are expanding their dock. Right now they have seen in the plans, they have about a 60-foot dock right now, and they're planning to expand to about a 100-foot dock. And for that process, they need to go through EGLE, the Department of Energy, Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. And they need a letter from City Council saying that the City Council approves of this bottomlands conveyance. This went to the Harbor Commission because they are our advisory board. And also we have a city code section that states any expansions of docks go to the Harbor Commission city to review for safety and other reasons. So, the Harbor Commission reviewed it and they asked questions. Zach representing from Wallstrom Dock and Dredge and Neil here from engineering company. They represent Little Harbor Club and they both answered questions. And I can let Zach speak if he wants to, but the Harbor Commission was satisfied with answers and recommends that City Council.
Zach only signed his first name. What's his last name?
Jones.
And I went through all of last year's Harbor Commission meetings, and I can't find any minutes in there where we actually discussed this project, but they said they discussed it. It just wasn't in the minutes.
We had a special Harbor Commission meeting a week and a half ago about, and so those minutes aren't approved yet.
So we can't read the comments from that meeting in support of the paperwork we're looking at tonight.
Well, I summarized that in my memo. But, and the video is on YouTube, but if you want to see those draft minutes, but those aren't approved by the Harbor Commissions.
So I'm thinking that maybe we want to wait until we actually see the comments that the Harbor Commission members made before we vote on this.
Does council have any questions for Mr. Jones or Mr. Holshu about the conveyance of the project?
I'd appreciate a short summary of what your presentation was.
So Zach Jones, Wallstrom Dock and Dredge. The Little Harbor Club came to us starting about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, to look into expanding their existing dock. Where the dock is located is at the drop off in the far west side of the harbor. Part of our goal in this is that currently the dock is not in very deep water. And so there's only actually a very small section of the dock that is in navigable water. And so it's inviting people into kind of the drop off where they could very easily get reached. This dock is for use just for, people attending Little Harbor Club for, lunch or playing tennis or whatever they may do. It is not, overnight slip rentals. It's just it's similar use as the 2-hour dock that we put in for the city. And so the design that we came up with allowed them to get, slightly past that drop off into safe navigable water. Eagle has then asked for a bottomlands conveyance just because of the commercial nature of the business. And this is something that that the Eagle department has started to do on many docks. And so in order for us to get the permit approved on this, we need approval, or we would like the support of the city in order to get that going. So this was a condition for like permit approval on the dock, that this be done. I think if I'm correct, Neil, do we have an updated deadline?
I have got a permit that's approved and acceptance for Eagle for the dock permit itself. However, they cannot open up the next process and push the dock into the public comment period until we get a bottomlands conveyance permit actually submitted, which we can't submit an application for that until we get the approval from the city to get that going. So as soon as we have approval from the city or a letter saying that we've brought it to city council with their approval, I can submit that application, at which point Eagle will then take the dock permit and push that into a public comment period for the rest of the review process.
Working backwards then, is there an absolute deadline that you need in a letter from city council approving this?
You know, I don't have an absolute deadline, assuming that the Harbor Commission's next meeting is its next regular meeting, which I believe is in June. We would greatly appreciate approval from council prior to that. Simply because of the timeline and working through, you know, permitting with Eagle, they kind of like to kick you back and make you start over if you can't continue the process. Another side note, we also do have a letter from their neighbor at the Harbor Point Association, saying that they are in favor of this dock. And I think it's also applicable, or, you know, relevant to bring up that the Planning Commission also administratively approved this after reviewing the site plan and the Harbor Commission's recommendation.
This is maybe not important, but I'm just curious, does the Harbor Club already have a bottomlands lease for the part that they're using, and this is just an increase in that, or is this something different?
This is something different and new. And as we stated earlier, you know, bottomland conveyances are not new. Obviously, I believe both of the other private marinas in town hold bottomland leases. However, it's something that the department is using more frequently. Just over the past like 3 to 5 years, it's become a much more common occurrence as a way for the state to generate revenue.
Got it, thank you.
You're very welcome.
I doubt I'm gonna have any problem with this, but does it hurt to push it off for 2 weeks until we can actually review what the Harbor Commission, all the members said? Does it give you kind of your timeline?
I'll have to go back to Eagle and request for an extension, but
I can add to that, that our, just like city council meetings, our harbor commission meetings aren't transcripts, so you will not have every comment from every harbor commission member in those minutes. It'll be a generalization, as I've generalized in the memo here.
So then I would be better served to go and listen to the actual Zoom, YouTube video of the meeting.
This is how we normally do business here, so yes, if you want to know what every single harbor commission said, you should go listen to the meeting.
We're here to be thorough.
I was at the Harbor Commission meeting for that. And I think that they had a really good conversation about this project, and I think everyone voted in favor of moving forward with it. So I'm pretty comfortable with voting on it today.
Is there Any more questions from Mr. Jones and Mr. Holtu?
We have questions.
Yeah, well, I just want to exhaust council's discussion on the presentation or such before we entertain a motion.
Citizen.
Okay, citizens' comments.
Quick question, 70%, almost a 70% increase.
Could you, sir, could you please refer to the.
Be two on the podium. Yeah,
There's
just,
plenty of room.
great, just a quick
And
question.
name and
Yes.
address, please.
Gary Goppigan, West Rivers Township, just a quick question, Zach, is there a reason for such a huge increase? Could you be 50% bigger? Do you have to go from 60 to 100, or could you go from 60 to 80? It seems like 100's a huge,
I could go from 60 to 120.
yeah, that's not gonna help.
The design of the dock is based on water depth, as well as the all-time low water that was set in 2013. And so the design was intended to make sure that boaters were pulling into safe navigable water, regardless of what the lake decided, because we can't control lake levels. What I can tell you is that the first 40 feet of that are in about less than 6 inches of water right now.
Oh, okay,
And that the first 30 feet of it are now beach.
good. So basically, you're saying you need the 100, there's no overlap, it's not like you're being really generous.
The
You need
existing,
100.
the existing finger pier and the existing dock on the landward side has about 14 inches of water in it as far as this point. So you only basically have one parking slip on the far end.
Okay, okay, good, that's the kind of stuff we need to know. Good, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, please.
Linda Rockwitz, 519 East Third Street, and I can't resist this. I spend a lot of time on my kayak in that exact area. So it is very shallow, which is why I can paddle over there and get out and take a little break, stretch my legs, and then get in. And there's not a lot of boat traffic in there. It's not a place that other boaters use. I'm comfortable with it.
Are there any more citizen comments from those in attendance at the meeting or on Zoom? Council, is there anyone? Do we have a motion on the table at all? Or?
I'll make a motion to approve of whatever it is.
So the motion would be to approve the attached resolution, approving the Bottomlands conveyance to the Harbor Club for the new document.
I would make a motion to approve that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion, council? Before we take a vote?
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Wendy Reed,
Aye.
Michael Behrman,
Yes.
Jamie Melky.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next on the agenda item is a zoning code update from the planning commission chairperson.
Well, hello, council. The purpose of this segment is to give me an update on the zoning code update process. Most of the people in this room, everybody has been engaged already. And I know you all have too, so this is a little bit of a formality, but it'll help folks on replay and maybe remotely too. So Victor, next slide. First thing to tell you about is the planning commission made some decision at our January 23rd, 2025 meeting. And the main decisions were that the current zoning code warrants being updated. The PC voted to begin an update process of the zoning code. The PC voted to use the framework of repealed ordinance number 439 as the basis for the update work. And we also agreed to a revised work plan where the planning commission and the community, all those who have the stomach for it and endurance, will go through essentially every word of every article, just making sure that we all understand and look for improvement out of this. Beckett Rader has suggested an order and review of the articles, which I've included in this updated presentation that we're seeing tonight. And this will likely take, I would say, 5 or more full planning commission meetings to get through all the articles. And we're saving the really good stuff for last. That's articles 2 and 3 with all the measurements, dimensions, approvals, and that kind of thing. And that's what we're just dying to get to, but it's going to be last. And just in summary, why to update our zoning code? It's to improve the clarity and usability for everybody who uses it and touches it. Anticipate future needs of Harbor Springs residents, to reduce bureaucratic processes and costs for residents where it makes sense to do so, and to sync with the city's master plan goals and the future land use map. And we feel the zoning code definitely has areas that can be improved. And so here's a smattering of some of the amendments that planning commission and the public will consider. And I don't think I need to read all these. Folks can see them in the package, and everybody in the room really is pretty up on these things. There's another page of those as well. And then the next page is the zoning code aspects that have been suggested by the public and by the planning commission for review. And that pretty much covers all the meaty stuff in articles 2 and 3 and some other things. And here's the consolidated planning commission calendar through April 2025. And we're still in the process of doing town hall meetings and open houses. There have been 4 town hall meetings so far, and the next one is tomorrow evening, 6 o'clock. And then we've got a couple more open houses as well. And then the regular planning commission meetings are on this consolidated calendar as well. So hopefully this made it simpler for residents to see how to join us. And Zoom link is there, and we've added a few new things with the help of a number of residents. We've got the minutes, or not the minutes, but notes from each of the town hall sessions posted on the web, and so folks can take a look at those too. And then here's a new part. This is the work plan for February. And at our meeting Thursday night, right here at 5:30, we're going to take a look at Articles 1, 11, 12, and 13. For the rest of the planning commission right now, and the public are available. Everybody can take a look at those and learn, and we'll do the same. And then we'll discuss those and take those apart, dissect them on Thursday night. Then 2 weeks later, we're going to take a look at Articles 6 and Articles 8. And those are a couple of good ones. And then the rest of the articles will be scheduled for future meetings. We'll do that at the February 20th meeting when we see what kind of progress we're making. We'll set our schedule for March. And then last slide, finally, the requests of city council members are to stay engaged throughout the process. And thanks so much to each of you. And you've been to multiple sessions. I know that you're working with us and learning, and really appreciate it. It makes a big difference for the public and for the planning commission. And I encourage you to keep learning the details now with us, so that it's not a learning process, 2, 3, 4 months from now, whenever this comes to you, if it does come to you. And I would request no surprises. So let's not wait till the very end to surface something. If you have an idea or a suggestion, please get it to a planning commission member now. And, let's get those baked in. Your residents too, your property owners, you have ideas, you have opinions, and, I know council members need to be kind of careful about expressing their opinions in public meetings outside of city council, but I know you do have ideas too, so don't hesitate to contact somebody individually, or I'm going to ask you tonight in just a minute if you do have any direct input right now. And my personal goal, I'm laying it out for you, planning commission hasn't endorsed this. This is what I would like to offer to you is to bring you an updated zoning code that's so clearly superior that everyone on council can feel good about approving this. I know we've got some work to do to get to that point, but that's my goal. So now I would like to ask council as a group, do you have any input that we got this?
I just have a quick question. There was a slide in there that I don't think was in the packet. That one, oops.
Yes, this is an updated presentation, adding that.
So
Next one, Victor.
that's something we can have a copy of.
The planning commission packet will go out tomorrow morning.
Oh, and that'll be in there. Okay, great.
Planning commission package, yeah, okay.
Well, yeah. It was emailed to planning commission members.
Okay, it'll be posted. Great.
Thanks.
Any questions from council before we take questions or comments from the citizens?
At the moment, we have this ending in April, which is a month for most, I mean, we had bowling on Main Street, we don't even have a city council meeting that month because everyone's on spring break and out of town. Could we stretch it out, maybe catch the summer residents? Because we're not in a hurry here.
We could. Planning commission can decide if they want to have a second April meeting there, or if they don't, kind of depending on how the flow feels and all that. So anything's possible.
I'd like to see it stretch out into the summer for 50% of our homeowners are not here.
Okay.
They made a point of saying that they would like to be here to give input. We're not in a hurry. So if we took the rest of the year to write our zoning code, we've given everybody an opportunity.
Okay, I take your input. Not sure I agree with it. Seems like overly long and inefficient. So
Why should you be in the minority?
Are there any other questions or comments from council?
I guess I just had one other quick question. The rest of this backup information, is that all gonna be part of the planning commission meeting? Or was this information just for council?
that's just for council and for.
Okay.
public.
Okay,
Got some goals from the master plan that we always
I
reference.
thought there were some good things in there and some things that were highlighted that is useful information for anyone who would want it.
I for one, I think if progress is being made, on the zoning code, and it proceeds, I think it's proceeding organically. I don't think that planning commission should necessarily slow down or speed up depending on who's here or who's not in town. I think it happens, it's gonna happen, it might take longer than April or May or whatever, we don't know. But if it doesn't, I don't think planning commission comes to meetings and says, oh, well, we're gonna wait 2 months until June or July. That's not how city government works. And I think people are engaged. They know what's going on. They're participating via Zoom, via reading packets and such. They can email certainly our zoning administrator, Mr. Grimm, city manager, Mr. Mulder. I think there's plenty of ways that we can engage, and we are engaging the community. I think Planning Commission has done a good job of revising the schedule based on input from its consultant, who was the one that said, well, we need to slow down a bit and really review all articles of 439, even those mundane ones. So if it happens that it's May or June and Planning Commission is still working on it, so be it. If it happens where it's April and Planning Commission is ready to move forward with a recommendation to the City Council, so be it. So I, for one, don't think that Planning Commission should slow down intentionally and wait for all residents to return. That's my opinion, so
The
I
other thing is-
respectfully disagree.
If planning commission does bring you an updated ordinance to consider, city council controls its own schedule also, so you'll be in charge of what comes next.
Are there any more questions from city council or comments? This time, are there any questions or comments from our citizens that are present in the room? Please, if you can approach the podium, and if everyone could try to adhere to that 3-minute time limit, that would be greatly appreciated.
I have to turn this on.
It's already on.
I'm Cindy Randazzo, 2244 Pinecrest Street. And Councilwoman, I appreciate you wanting to slow it down a little bit as I was, and thank you for a wonderful schedule. I will definitely be looking it all over tomorrow. But the one thing that I think was mandated was that a lot of people didn't have input on that first go around, or a lot of people felt they didn't have a input on that first go around. So as you made this really wonderful schedule, why can't we schedule a few more meetings so that everyone's captured, meaning the people that aren't here full time? I'm here full time, so I have the benefit of through mid-April, but a lot of people do not. And you don't want to find yourself in that situation again, that people feel like they've been left out. So as wonderful as that schedule is, I think that maybe perhaps including those people that will be coming back would be probably very much appreciated by the people that voted this down in the first place. So thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Onfield, Birchwood. The way we've been working together has been pretty great. We take lots of notes back and forth. I think Bill is pretty happy with the progress. I get calls from people that say, you know, we're going to try to get back May 5th. She said in my notes, the timing of the meetings. I'm not here in person. The meetings will have an impact on my property. And I think that's all well and good, and we know what your opinion is, Michael. But the place where I'm sort of exploring right now are the ideas of these articles that are going to be given to us by Beckett and Rader. They are articles of the city plan that they put together for the 439. Now, articles we have, can't even remember. I can't even remember what I'm going to say. Ordinances. You know, has anyone taught us about ordinances? Ordinances is what these zoning plans are made of, the way the neighborhood works, the way the district works. And so we're gonna try in some of our education pieces to teach about that. But I just want to make sure that everyone knows that it isn't just the articles that we have to learn about. It's all the other things because like Bill says, we're in this together and we'll slug through it. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Please.
I'm Audrey Chapman and I reside at 120 East Summit Street. I would just like to say that the planning commission worked very hard for a couple of years, had open meetings. Everybody was invited to attend either in person or on Zoom. Everybody was able to give input. We've had all of these town halls and listening sessions for the zoning that the planning commission has listened to very carefully. Everyone has been able to attend those meetings or via Zoom or in person. We're all making time for this as a community. Those of us who live here year round, it's frankly just a little bit insulting that while everybody else is away on vacation, they want us to wait till the summer rolls around where we can finally start enjoying some fun activities outside. I think that the city government doesn't stop working just because 50% of the residents are gone, which is more like 60%. City governments don't work that way. And it's not fair for those people who don't live here to think that we should do something like that. I also think that it's a terrible insult to the planning commission, who has worked so hard, who has come up with a new plan to review the code that was so worked on so hard, that you're asking them again to prolong it for another year. Why are we in a hurry? We need to get this done. And though the people that don't live here can attend these meetings via Zoom. They can watch them on YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Rick Tarczynski, 465 State Street. I'd like to thank Michael for his statement about how we need to move ahead of this instead of dragging it out forever. This is a full-time city. It's not a part-time city. Full-time residents need to be listened to for once instead of out-of-town people. The whole We Heart Harbor Springs, as John pointed out at his last meeting he was here, was started by somebody in Ohio. Why do we spend so much time listening to people that don't live here? I'm here all the time. I participate in the city. I come to all the events. I come to the meetings. And I think it's time that I'm listened to, not somebody that's sitting in Ohio and is too busy socializing or whatever they're doing to come here. Sure, they're stakeholders, they own property, but they have a say where they live. I don't have a say where they live. I think we need to stop listening to people that live outside of town and listen to the people that live here full time and vote for people. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from citizens that are in the audience here? If not, let's go to Zoom, please. If there's any hands up.
I don't see any.
Last call. Going once.
Nate Graham, Pleasantview Road. We are, a very interesting city that's very different than most other cities in the world, and trying to adopt things that come from the big city and not from the people that actually know, love, and are here for years and years is an insult. We are a small, clean drinking community with a sailing problem. We have lots of people here that love it year after year after year, and it forms that way. We are a resort town where I've been here for, my kids will be 6th generation. And to be able to see a change from not just 80% of the people that pay the taxes, but actually love and choose this year after year, compared to people that have been here for 5 or 10 years and want to make drastic changes compared to the community that we've had, is the biggest division that we've seen in decades. And unanimously, this is bigger than anything. And, to hurry things up versus to do things right, there is no speed in doing things right. As much hard work as everybody's put into this, it's clearly not enough, as we're still all here. Whether it's heated, whether it's old, whether it's young, whether it's seasonal or not, there's lots of people that care about this. And I'm grateful that everybody does, because this is the greatest damn little city in the whole world. And to see it botched for any reason, is unforgivable. And we don't need to do that, because we can still be here. We can have more community, more town halls, more conversation, more ways. I appreciate everybody being here. I'm glad that we're all different. But at the same time, to pigeon one side, whether it's locals versus resorters, versus out of town, versus Pleasant View, versus anything else, that's just bastardizing ourselves. That's a mistake. I'm grateful that we're still here talking. So to hurry this up by any before summer or not makes no difference. We all have a say, and the people that are showing up here now versus people showing up later, there's too much division. Let's keep talking. He who communicates best wins. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, moving on to boards and commissions policy and application review and discussion. That's item 4C. Discussion item, council.
Council has requested this last meeting for me to add a agenda item to discuss the board and commission application process, and specifically what we require from citizens to fill out on the form of the application. I included our process. I also included our application. I also have about 9 or 10 other communities in northern Michigan, their application process and what they require. So hopefully I didn't make any recommendations, because this is something council wanted to look at. But you can see there's a variety in what the different towns in northern Michigan asked for. So yeah, if there's anything that you council wants to add to the application, I think it's just general big picture or something specific. I can take those notes and we can format City Hall a new application with those elements.
Thanks, Victor, for putting this together. I just started to scribble notes on our current citizen participation application. Sorry about that. I think there are a few things that overall, I think this is a decent application with a good place to start. I think we may want to consider where the number of boards and applications. I like the idea of people putting in order which ones they want to apply for, but I'm wondering if we shouldn't, because we do have specific requirements for the different boards, that perhaps we change that to 4 choices instead of the top 6 choices, just because there are some significant differences in the qualifications for those boards. I also think along with this, city manager included a copy of the board's recruitment and application policy. I think we might want to look at some changes in that too. Like to say, if we're going to do this, let's do the whole process. I don't think we need to go through each one of these one by one and say what we liked or didn't like on all of them. I know I've certainly made notes on some of them, but I liked, specifically, the one thing I liked was, the one application, this is the city of Grayling, that puts down the meeting dates of each of the different committees and boards. I think that that's something that we need to put on the application, that people understand when these committees and boards meet. So that when we have applications and then people go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't notice dates, I can't make that date. So we need to, I think we need to put that information up front and make sure people understand that these are the dates that generally the meetings, I mean, whatever our expectation is. You know, generally the meetings are held on the, I don't know, the second Tuesday or the third Thursday. That's, and what the time is, that's stated. And that we expect people to be able to be available. Oops.
I agree with Kathy. I really liked that Grayling has it laid out, the different boards that are available, what their functions are, and also when they meet. I would like to see a question that asks if they're aware of when the meetings are held and if they are able to attend. I think we need to make sure that people are aware that they have to be present to vote in person, not on Zoom. I also think that potentially a question as to like what benefit to the city you would bring if you were in addition to a board.
Go ahead.
I agree with both of you. I also like the question, how long have you been a city resident? Are you currently in default to the city? Are you related to any elected city commissioner? Do you have any pending litigation against the city? And the page on the Grayling board where they actually list what qualities or experience they're looking for in serving on these committees, I thought was really helpful. And then just a plain old, why are you interested in serving? Was really helpful.
I would agree with all those comments. I know that potentially it might end up being a multi-page application, and I think currently it's one page, but you know, so be it. One of the things that I may have brought up in a past meeting, and this is more process, I guess. It would be nice to give people a focused opportunity, 2 minutes or something to come before council prior to council voting and nominating people and voting. Just to not even so much a back and forth or an interview, but just to highlight some things from their application. I know that as council people, we can reach out, we get the applications, and sure, we can reach out to people, but I personally find that awkward. You know, I feel that if I reach out to one, I better reach out to all of them, and then I better be asking the same questions. It's just an awkward thing. So I know this past year, we had something like 44 applications or something, and that would have been really tough. It probably would have been a 2-hour process if people wanted to. They wouldn't be required to, but if they wanted to, you know, pitch themselves, so to speak, or just tell council a little bit more. But I don't know if it could be a special meeting or part of another meeting that isn't quite so long. I just think that would be an important thing to do, to actually see and meet people and hear what they have to say.
I would add that, and I would probably consult with attorney about this. one of the questions about asking whether or not someone's in a default, whether or not we don't have an ordinance. We have the charter that says you cannot be in default if you serve on the city council, but we don't have any ordinance or policy, official policy that says that. So if the goal is to say we don't want someone in default in litigation, to be able to serve, I don't know if that's the goal, but if that is the goal, we probably might need to look at some sort of policy or ordinance, because right now the charter just states that you can't be in default to serve on council. So I just would, if that's what the council wants, or if it's just a question you want to know, that's a different story. You just want to know whether they're in default or litigation, as opposed to making that a
Then are we talking default of
taxes.
property tax?
Yeah, yeah. So you may just want to know that, which is fine, that can go in application, but if we're gonna, we should probably set the policy or ordinance if we're gonna say you can't serve because of that, so. I just want to make that clear.
Would it also make sense to put anything on here that some of those requirements that maybe it's in another document, that says what the requirements are? I think that's either in the code or the charter, probably the code. You know, that you have to be a resident, that you, or whether you do or don't have to be a resident, whether you know, what those requirements are. Should we have that somewhere? I don't know.
We have those in different documents, so I might suggest that we have a link that links to those things so people can, instead of making this a 5-6 page document, links to say, here's maybe the meeting schedule, and then have them check the box, are you okay with making this meeting schedule? Here's the rule to consider. So I think keeping it a more manageable document while still giving them the information they should know.
Okay.
Cadillac has on theirs, in most cases, you must be a resident of the city of Cadillac to serve on its committees, boards, and commissions. Exceptions are, and then it lists what the exceptions are. So if we could do it in a short 2-paragraph or 2-sentence.
2 sentences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the things we've brought up are really good points, but I also want to be cautious that we don't make the applications too in-depth to the point that nobody wants to fill out a 4-page application.
Is there any information in the current application that you don't want to see? I think it's pretty standard information, but
I think that education and occupation could almost be like one thing. A lot of the applicants for occupation might retired. Or maybe even just specify like what was your past occupation, if it's relevant to this board.
all right, I have that. So we would like to open up.
Let's can entertain public comments, please. Please.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Mhm.
Rachel Rim, Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Harbor Springs. This is really short. Underneath where they're listed, community and Parks and Recreation. Only because I don't want to be under other. Thanks.
There you go. Okay. Good point.
It's an old form.
You did that in under 10 seconds. Good. Any other public comments from those with us here in the room? I see a public comment on Zoom. Someone has their hand up.
Robert.
Yes, hi. Probably the shortest spiel I've ever made in front of you, and thank you for your public service, number one, and the very civil tone from everybody that is participating in this now. But I just like to echo Nate's and Karen Offield's comments and state that membership in the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and Redevelopment Ready Communities, I think, is the most dangerous threat to the future of Harbor Springs home rule imaginable. And I hope we can move on from that and maintain a home rule and not participate in these statewide huge organizations that are very much against the historic nature and culture and
Mr. Hall.
feeling of this community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's not the agenda item that we're talking about now, but thank you.
I would just like to add, just so it's in the record, that this application and recruitment process that we have passed was a requirement of the RRC best practice. So this is a best practice that we would not have because of the RRC program. So just for the record.
Okay, any other comments from the folks in the room or on Zoom? Okay, we are moving on to item 4D, boardwalk design options and cost estimates discussion.
All right, let me get my screen share real quick. All right, at last council meeting, you requested to look at the Eastern Boardwalk design options and cost estimates that we had previously. And so we had plans for the boardwalk back in 2017 for the whole boardwalk. So these first set of quotes you see are from 2017 cost estimates. And we had 4 different types of options. We had an at-grade path, we had a wooden walk, concrete walk, and a steel walk. Of course, you see it in the order of from least expensive to most expensive, with the at-grade path being $350,000 and steel walk being $660,000. Well, of course, we only did the western section of the boardwalk, and that was in 2023. That ended up being close to $600,000, which is twice the cost, almost twice the cost of the at-grade path back in 2017. So we did the western section in wood. In the packet you see, or you should have seen the pros and cons from each comparison of each of the different types. And council for several years went back and forth on the pros and cons of each of these paths, and obviously came to the wooden block. At the last council meeting, it was brought up and suggested that we might want to, if we do Eastern Section Boardwalk, we might want to continue with the same. If we're going to do a non-at-grade path, we continue with the same material as the Western Boardwalk for keep it harmonious. So we, DPW Director Lucas Vanderzee, discussed with Benchmark to get cost estimates going forward to do a wooden boardwalk for the eastern portion. Benchmark's first estimate was anywhere between $400,000 and $600,000. Lucas was able to get a contractor to get a more specific cost estimate of $547,000 with general breakdown, as you see, demolition $62,000, install vehicle pilings $150,000, $45,000 for the electrical, and the new deck itself almost $30,000. So that's a general breakdown. And of course, these costs go up or down based on the cost of materials and when we get this project done. So right now, this is the cost estimate. If materials go up, and they could potentially go up 25, 30% or more, or they could even come down depending on the way market is. So, but roughly, you're still going to be probably within that $500,000 to $650,000 range. The at-grade path option would require at least 2 temporary construction easements on private property because there's no way to do what we need to do there with the current current city right away that we have up there. So, and Lucas can expand on this if you'd like him to, but it's just both Benchmark and DPW think it's not feasible to with the current right away that we have to build that great path. So yeah, that's a summary of what's there. You see the plans of the cost analysis. As well, I would suggest that if, the first decision council should make is whether or not they want to proceed with this, or if you need more information from me, we could try to get that, but based on this information. Whether or not you want to reconstruct the Eastern Boardwalk. If it's a yes, we can begin preparing specific plans, and begin fundraising. Or if it's no, I think we should then have a city attorney look at to what the consequences of that are for our possession of that easement there.
Discussion.
I'll probably have a lot of questions as we go through this, but your statement in the background says that the at-grade option would require at least 2 temporary construction easements. But is that only for the at-grade path option, or isn't that for any option? Thank you.
Yeah, Lucas Vanderzee, Director, Department of Public Works. For the at-grade option, the reason I would require 2 additional temporary easements is because in order to get the equipment to do the grading and carry the blocks and the cement and different things out there, we would have to encroach upon the 2 properties at the base of Gardner Street. So we would have to make a wider area versus just where the walking path, and it's a small set of steps that are right there. So we would need a little bit additional area to get equipment to actually do the deconstruction and then reconstruction.
And you wouldn't need that extra space for the other options?
No, with the wooden version with the helical piles, we've had several contractors that were interested. Basically, they would be able to traverse the existing walkway with the equipment needed to drive the new helical piles. And then they could build the new one and deconstruct the old one while it's in place. So they could basically just build it from the old one and replace it on the way down. So they'd have a pathway to get the materials in and out as well.
Thank you, I understand.
Any other discussion from council on this?
At the moment, I support this. I support doing the wooden decking. So the question is just how to fund it. In my mind, we've got half the job done. We need to finish it.
I guess my other question is, and this comment has been brought up by the public, I believe, at other meetings, is do we really need to do this at all? And that's still that's still a question in my mind. And I'm not sure. I guess I'm open-minded, but the question is, do we want to do it at all? And do we need to do something else in terms of, I don't know, I almost hate to say the word survey, but do we need to do some other information gathering to determine whether the city really wants to do this?
I feel this, I am in the middle, I don't know. I think that if we decide to not go forward with reconstructing it, then I think that we do need to make a point to make sure that it is removed. I think a lot of the zoning town halls have talked about blight, and that one right there is one of the biggest ones. So I think that we do need to make that decision. So I guess I would feel more comfortable having Reimer's opinion before I make a decision one way or the other. And I also agree with Kathy as far as, do people support this or not?
So to clarify, you would like Jim Raymer's opinion on
The easement.
the easement of what would happen?
Yeah, I mean, how much time do we have? All of that.
That's something Jim, better.
Sure, I can tell you roughly what it is. It's basically you have, it's 15 years to acquire an easement by prescription. And much of what the city has in this area is an easement by prescription. The same length of time is required to abandon it. So if it's not used for 15 years, you will lose the easements.
And, when did that clock start ticking?
Well, I guess that's probably require a little more legal analysis, right? Because we
Okay.
closed the boardwalk, the whole boardwalk in November of 2021, but have we been doing anything with the eastern section? I don't, have we done anything? Have we done any maintenance on it at all? Anything?
Not since 21.
So then it probably, I would assume it started in November 2021, but I think I would want to salvage it just to make sure. Because I think through this point, we've had an open question on whether or not we still want to use it, so I don't think we still maintain that we want to do something with it. So I'm just, it's a little gray zone in my opinion on whether or not the time would have started in 2021.
Has there been any, anyone's knowledge, has there been any assumed commitment, even that the city would go ahead with this, with the eastern portion, when it had completed the western portion, was there? Do people hold an assumption that, yeah, they're gonna do the eastern portion, I'm excited to contribute to the western portion part of it, because I know the whole thing will eventually get done. Was there any kind of assumption that it would get done, I guess, and maybe you get that in the survey, I don't know, I'm kind of asking the rhetorical question, I guess. So no one has to answer.
Again, Prince Recreation Director, so I can briefly answer that in a way. So when we did take in donations for the western portion of the boardwalk in our thank you letters distributed to those donors, there was the intent that we were going to move forward with the eastern portion, specifically in the letters to those western portion donors. With that being said, some of those donors did come forward, right after we finished the western section and said, how do we get the eastern section completed? There wasn't many, but there were people that did come forward with a match, who donated right away. I don't want to say a specific number what we're at. I think I said the last week about 4,000, the potential match still in place. But it definitely did not have the first fundraising did. The Parks Board, we love to do a fundraising event similar to what we had done in New York. That didn't quite have a pull. There could have been numerous reasons for that. We did send out letters and try and get the word out on social media and the website. They just didn't seem to have quite the excitement.
Council, do you have any more discussion, questions, or opinions?
Go ahead.
I would say, I've only heard from one citizen who wasn't wanting to finish the boardwalk. I've heard from multiple who have. So I guess what we're looking for is input from the citizens to reach out to us and tell us their thoughts.
I agree with that. I know that John I has mentioned before, and another resident has mentioned that there's a way that you can use cell data to track how many people have used the boardwalk. Is that something that we could potentially look into doing? to see if, what the usage actually is.
It's a good idea. I personally would be hesitant to do that. But just as far as using that data, but if it's something that council wants me to look into, but I don't know if Big Brother and all.
I mean, the data's already there.
I know, I'm just my one.
Getting it.
Yeah, it's just my concern. But I understand how useful it could be.
I mean, most of the people that I talk to, that have lived here their entire lives basically say it's always been there, but then when you ask if they've used the new boardwalk, they haven't. So it's one of those things where it is historical and people want to preserve that, but if it's not going to be used, then do we want to spend the money?
Well, I guess, Councilmember Macho, your suggestion of a survey might be a way to go forward, one way. Rachel, did we have, when you guys did the park survey, was there any suggestion on the priority of boardwalk and how was the question phrased? Was it a question, do you want to do it or not, or was it a ranking of the different? Yeah, please.
I can't speak to the percentage. We did, I want to say we specifically asked in our last park survey, the boardwalk versus the wheelway, the spillway tunnel, in which they would like to see, and they were pretty close. The boardwalk was under, if it was a minimal percentage.
So the question wasn't, should we do it or should we not?
Yeah, it wasn't should we do it or should we not, but it was just rating so we could prioritize what to fundraise for. Because we were kind of in the spot where we were trying to fundraise for like $1 million, and that's just not always practical.
It was 57% of the people chose the boardwalk over the Harbor Way.
Thank you. Yeah, so the opposite.
But 196 people chose the boardwalk and 146 people chose the Harbor Way, so it's not that many people.
Yeah, it's pretty minimal.
I mean, I really think it makes sense to figure out what if people really want it. Before we go to the trouble of deciding which, getting bids, deciding which construction method we want, all of that.
I agree. I think, I'll have to think about how to do the survey just a little bit, because I've heard in past feedback that, when we just say, the question, do you want to do these for boardwalk? But then questions come up, well, what's the cost going to be? What's this going to look like? So you may or may not get different answers. However, I can structure a survey in a way to say, maybe have some progressive questions, all right, do you want to do the boardwalk, yes or no, the Easter session? What material you want to see out of it? What cost are you willing to take it? I just want to put that caution out there that we can structure a survey that way, but just asking the question, do you want to do it or not, might not get the best answer, so it'll need some more.
Well, I agree, some care in how we, not that we haven't before, but thinking through those questions, I agree.
It sounds like the only material really that's viable is to construct it with a wooden deck. I mean, that's that grade path. We require easements, and sounds like it's really, a difficult process. So would we really want to ask, what kind of materials?
No, you don't have to, you're right, let's just.
But I think you're right, at this point, we've already done the west half in one style. I can't imagine that we'd want to go ahead and do these differently.
I think the biggest thing that brothers would want to know is probably the cost. I mean, our cost estimates should be part of that, so they're aware of that.
And clearly, the goal is to do this through fundraising as well.
That's the goal. There is, council always have the option. We do have reserve funds in our maintenance fund that we've been slowly starting, and that's just started the last 2 years here, so we don't have a whole lot of money in there, but there's always that opportunity to lean back on that. But our goal for those funds was for something project like this, but once we had enough money in that reserve fund to be able to do something like that. So I think the majority of the funds would have to be fundraised, but you probably could fall back depending on the situation. Some city general fund. Or I don't know about streets, but we also call that a sidewalks.
The premise on the western part of the boardwalk, it was funded by fundraising through the general fund. The street fund actually, no, the general fund did. We would look at it as more of a street sidewalk type situation. So that, you know, I tried to put it out there that it logically would make sense to me. You're connecting two sidewalks. It's virtually a elevated sidewalk. Pedestrian traffic. The money that we use from our street village also proportionately could be justified in my mind to go towards that to some extent. You know, so fundraising, a few bucks from the general fund, a few bucks from the street village. I mean, that's how my brain looks at that boardwalk, is an extension of a sidewalk that's just not on the ground.
Any other comments or questions from the council? We go to our citizens now for any comments on the Eastern Boardwalk. Please.
It'll be really. Gonna be running down for 2244 Pinecrest Street. Working with 565 municipalities in New Jersey, I can guarantee you citizens never want to lose a pathway to anything. Every single city I've ever worked with, that is like something that they never want to lose. So you have you're on a clock for how often, or how long you have to engage it again. I'm sure that's something that a citizen would want to know, that, you know, this is something that they could lose. And when citizens understand it's something they can lose, they're going to go right at it and go, please give it to us. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Steve. I thought I saw another hand, please.
Yeah, Mulder Summit Street, and I just wanted to echo what you said, is that I think probably most of it would come from fundraising. In which case, the survey is somewhat less important. Like most of the money for the western part of the boardwalk did come from fundraising, and so all you need is a few people that are interested in having it happen, and you know, maybe we don't need to do a survey right away, but rather try fundraising first. There's a lot of options we talked about on parks, you know, like foundations with local ties, business partners, you know, companies around here. So I think maybe we try and exhaust that before we, you know, started doing a survey to see if citizens want it or findings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nikki Law, 146 East Lake Street. I've been involved with the meetings since 2017, talking about the boardwalk. I am a citizen that uses it often. And I do think it's really important to finish what the city started from way back in 2017. So it would be nice to come up with some kind of consensus instead of losing it completely and leaving it in a dilapidated situation, making it usable again. It would be, I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people that do use it. I mean, granted, the winter, not so much, but in the summertime, it is used. It's used often, especially by those of us that work and we live up from town. So it would be really great if we could figure out a way. I like what Nick had said about having multiple options, where maybe it wasn't all fundraised and the city put some back into it too, since the first one was totally fundraised. So thank you.
Thank you.
It was very clear today when I used it. You can use it this time of year too. I've used it a bit.
Any other comments from citizens in the audience? I think we can turn to Zoom. If there's any comments, please raise your hand on Zoom. So, I guess the city manager is asking for some direction from us. And just to be clear, we're asking to do a survey, is that correct? What, I wasn't clear myself on the direction.
Would it be worth reaching out to ask some of the donors from the western portion if they're interested in participating with the eastern to finish it?
You need to do that first.
Yeah.
We can do that.
We do have a citizen with their hand up, sorry that we didn't catch you.
Yeah, no worries. Dave McVicker, Environmental Planning and Design, Pleasant View. I think the consideration is warranted to do a survey to see what the exact demand and need is for that. Because if it's just for transportation for people to get from the Upper Bluff to town, there are already basically 3 alternatives to get down there safely and everything. We also got to look at the maintenance cost, not only the construction and building of it, but you know, like I noticed a little while ago when I was walking along there, some of the city workers having to clear off that boardwalk because people want to use it now in the wintertime, and that's got to be a very time consuming and lengthy process, shoveling each step, salting, so it's safe to walk down there in the wintertime. So you might want to also think about it, maybe part of it, if you do go forward with it, would be only utilized in a good season. And I guess it might be worth the easements to do more of a natural pathway for that section, just because it's not such an inclination as you look at the topography there. You could really put in a pathway that wouldn't require the ongoing maintenance year after year to replace boards, replace wood to maintain it. And if you could make a lower maintenance development, and I don't know what the cost up front would be to get the easements and whatnot, and or if those property owners are conducive to that, that it would be, I understand, an easement strictly for the construction process and not into perpetuity. So I guess that would be my consensus, that if you did do something with that eastern boardwalk, I would suggest making it more of a natural pathway if that people want to walk through the woods as they walk downtown to Harbor Springs, because of another wooden structure would add incremental cost and safety issues up the road. Thank you.
Those generalized cost estimates for maintenance were included in 2017 cost estimates. So they are there on the pages. There would be, of course, these numbers aren't exactly the same because it's 8 years later, but we do have a rough idea of what it would cost for maintenance. But it all depends on what we install and how to install it.
Oh. Okay, I see where you're talking about on here. Okay, where it says estimated cost per year, that's the maintenance cost on these old bids.
Yep.
Okay.
So I've heard a couple of things here. I've heard contacting donors, past donors for the western section to see if they're interested. I've heard reaching out to the citizens to do a survey. Is there anything else?
I would recommend we could do these simultaneously, because if it comes back, if we first ask the Western donors, it takes several weeks to hear back from them. We can simultaneously do the survey at the same time. We can reconvene in late March or sometime to do that.
Is everyone in agreement with that? Okay, thank you. Next discussion item, 4E, fundraising committee formation.
Okay, this was another request by council to look into forming a fundraising committee for general city projects. No, not many municipalities have general fundraising committees. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not really common. They usually have fundraising committees for sometimes for specific projects, such as tennis courts or a library or museum. But they are definitely effective, especially nonprofits, and they could be effective for a city like our size where we don't have dedicated fundraising staff. We never have, and so it could help definitely take some of the lead in fundraising for all of our different projects that we want to fundraise for. So I think the benefits generally are that you have a committee comprised of volunteers. They can bring new ideas for fundraising methods. They'll build and maintain relationships with residents and donors, and sometimes they have relationships with residents and donors that staff does not have. So it's an extra benefit. They can actively engage their neighbors, the community. They can help increase awareness of city projects and goals. And then, as I mentioned, kind of they take the lead on developing materials and coordinating projects with staff. So to kind of let staff do what staff kind of was hired for, and so then we can serve more of an assistance in the fundraising role. So I think that's a big benefit. You know, sometimes some of the risks are that you want to ensure that the fundraising committee is clearly articulating council's message and clearly communicating with staff on activities, and so that just I think that can be contained with having a council member or the mayor on the fundraising committee as well as staff in attendance. As I mentioned, these could be projects for parks projects, but they could also be other projects, tree plantings. We always ask residents to donate trees, and maybe if we had a fundraising committee that we had a tree planting project, that fundraising committee could take that and say, hey, we need 20 trees for a certain project, and they can run with that. Event programs, sponsorships, buildings and grounds improvements in some cases, the waterfront project, something in the harbor master building, we just put that out to bid for the winter, and hopefully it comes back at a reasonable price. But if we need extra $100,000 or $200,000, it might be a good idea. We can see if we can fundraise that. So it's just a thought, but I would suggest if council wants to go on this route, a composition. This is I'm just throwing out there. I couldn't find any cities with good examples of a general fundraising committee. Usually, again, it's project specific, but I would suggest having the mayor or a council member serve on it. Throwing out 4 residents, just who do not serve on any current boards or commissions, and then maybe a board and commission member from a few different boards, like a parks board or DDA and or tree board member that could help, because they usually where we have a lot of our projects with those boards. So again, it could be any composition council wants. And of course, we'd have different staff members, so the city manager, city clerk, and parks director available as needed, depending on what the fundraising committee needs at that time. So yeah, as I mentioned, just summary, all the direction on fundraising priorities that would come from council. So council would dictate, we want to fundraise for 1, 2, 3, or whatever projects that it is. You can task the fundraising committee with working on a few different projects at once, or one project at a time. That's all of the council. And then I would think they would recommend fundraising plans and any necessary budgets to council, and then council would have the authority to approve those plans and budgets. They don't need to be detailed plans, but just a general plan of what they anticipate. And then supervision of spending any monies would be the city manager's purview based on approved budget by the council. So that's generally how it would work. And I think it could work. But if council thinks it's going to be helpful, especially if we plan on fundraising for these projects that aren't necessary, but we want, and we don't want to use general fund taxpayer money on some of them, and we don't have the general fund taxpayer money to use on some of them, and can't get grants for all of them, then I think fundraising can be helpful.
Discussion?
I guess my only thought was the total number I'm thinking no more than 6 total. I hate to see, I don't want to limit our reach of this, but I feel like, I think a smaller board would be better.
I would like to see, personally, I would like to see like 6 individuals who are applying for the fundraising committee, not necessarily that are already on other boards. They can be on other boards, but I think that we really should emphasize that we want people that have experience with fundraising and have new ideas.
Just to summarize that, have 6 people on the board. 1 being the mayor or council member, and then 5 others, or 6 other residents and the mayor or council member.
I think 6 and
Oh.
plus a council person.
Okay, all right.
What? Oh,
So 7.
I mean, it could,
I was gonna say no,
6 is
5
fine.
plus 1, but
5 plus 1 is fine too. I just think the more ideas, the better. I also don't know that I had the intention of this committee necessarily being the executors of the fundraising. I think that their biggest job would be to bring the tools to the city and to those other boards to do the fundraising. They can obviously assist, but I think that I don't think that the intention was to have them be the ones that are executing all of the fundraising.
I guess also, if would we want to necessarily limit it to residents on this? There might be some people regionally that have a lot of fundraising expertise that could really contribute, you know, that or maybe you know, has headquarters you know, in our area. Yeah, I'm not so sure on this committee that I think you, if there's people out there that have expertise and are passionate about fundraising in our area, I think benefiting from their knowledge would be a good idea.
I agree with that. I don't think that they necessarily have to be residents. They don't have any decision-making powers. So I don't think that it would be bad to open it up to anybody that's interested.
Question about the lead, who would lead this? Just want to ensure that, you know, staff has time to do their regular duties. And so I think it'd be beneficial to have a designated lead on this. I would think, you know, the fundraising committee could operate in tandem with other boards and staff. But if the fundraising committee is just an idea generator, then I don't think that's the problem we have with staff here. I think it's more of the time commitment to execute some of these ideas and plans. So I would just, and then I guess if it'd be up to the, like, for example, if it's a Parks Board project, you know, how much time do those volunteers put on executing the plan? So I just wanna just put that caution out there that I think some fundraising can be done relatively easily by staff, letter writing and mail, but anything beyond that could be a little more time consuming. So I just want to clarify that.
yeah, hadn't really thought through how to define the role. I mean, I was thinking that part of the role of this committee would be to actually do some of the fundraising.
I think they could assist, but I think that if it's a parks project, the Parks Board should also participate.
Okay.
If it's a DDA project, the DDA board should also participate in fundraising.
But one of the comments you made, and maybe I misunderstood, was that what had to do with the work that the committee would actually do, and I somehow think I didn't understand
I think it could go either way. I think that that if we get a board of, or a committee of people that are really invested in this, then they may want to go ahead and execute all of it, but I think we also need to make sure that there are other people participating in the execution process.
Well, and I'm expecting too that, as I think it was mentioned in here, that the staff is here to provide, you know, if there are expenses, I mean, just as an example, mailing costs, which is probably minimal, but that, because that would have to fit in with the budget for each of those.
Right, so like an example I'm thinking about is, if we're gonna mail to, you know, 1,000 residents, right? If that's what the goal is. I'm not saying that's the goal. Sometimes you target, you know, select donors, and that's something staff needs to do, but a larger mailing project that take more time, you know, having, whether it's the board that's involved or the fundraising committee involved in helping there, it can be beneficial. That's just one example. But I do agree with Councilmember Melky is because, yes, the project that this falls under, that person or board should be the lead in that project. However, if they delegate and assist with the fundraising aspect and the coordinating with the fundraising committee on fundraising for that specific project based on what the board or the staff needs and wants and based on council's priority, then I think you can have in tandem, and you can have the fundraising committee kind of run with it. If that's, but as Councilmember Melky said, it all depends on the board composition of the fundraising committee. And, you know, it depends on what the volunteers, if they know upfront, you know, what they should be doing. It should be spelled out up front what the intention is. And what I can do is for next meeting is I can put together just a more condensed now proposal for what this could look like. And then and have you guys give the okay for it. It's more.
I think too, it comes down to, do we want this to be a temporary committee that are bringing us the tools to fundraise, or do we want this to be an ongoing committee that exists all the time? I think that's the big question. I had thought it would be a temporary.
It could be either or. I think one thing that we recognize is, we should probably recognize is, we don't know for sure what our revenue stream from non-fundraising will be in the future, right? We don't know what that tax revenue base will look like. So it may be an ongoing committee that some years does not need to meet. And it may be debated based on project base. So if we have a lot of projects, it could meet regularly. If there's not a lot going on, I think it better to still have it, and then bring it, then try to restart the whole process again. That's my thought.
I think too, if we're discussing fundraising, sometimes it's project dependent, it's budget dependent, your strategy shifts and changes. So what might be a strategy or a few key strategies for, let's say, fundraising for the boardwalk might be very different from fundraising for another project, you know, that comes up. So I think a lot of the sometimes strategies do change. And it might take more than just providing a menu of strategies to use in different commissions and boards pick and choose. It might be a need for the committee to be a little bit more long-term, and as Victor said, they may not need to be, but they might need to if different projects coming up.
So I guess my only suggestion there would be just not to put a definite, and then the council can end it at any time if they want to in the future.
I agree with that.
I can see this getting really messy, so I think if we did an ad hoc committee for a specific project, so for instance, the boardwalk, a certain group is all supportive of it, they get together, they make it happen, and then they disband and we choose another project, and the same people support it and want to get onto it, great. If there's people on it who don't, they'll refuse. But that's also the type of job that burns you out quick. And socially, people start to avoid you because they see you coming, you got your hand out. So, I think we'd be most successful to try this for a specific project and then reactivate it whenever we have another project come up. Plus, then you're arm wrestling with the person on the, for instance, not to pick on the Parks Board, as so who's actually in charge here?
It would be city council. We would give them the.
But they're doing the work.
Right, but they can't do anything without our approval.
Right, but they're still doing all the work. And then the Parks Board is saying, give us the money. So.
That's why I said the Parks Board would have to.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying, an ad
execute.
hoc committee for
Yeah.
one specific project.
I.
Good, I'm sorry, oh, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
I'm
you
not
can
on
go.
this board.
You can go.
Yeah, I think Wendy's got it maybe a good idea. Each project very well could be a different set of skills needed to raise something for a boardwalk versus handicap accessible bathrooms. Wherever that may be, if it ever came to fruition, if we needed them, whatever. Really what a fundraising board or committee would be as liaisons between the city staff, council, boards and commissions, and the community. So, like Michael said, yep, let's not just put this to, you gotta be a taxpayer or a resident. No, we've got maybe people over here in Little Traverse Township that have skill sets and love the boardwalk for whatever reason. But I think if we don't have a goal when people are out there banging on doors or sending mailers, it's just gonna be, I'm not giving you $100 for who knows what. People wanna see what they're donating towards. That's just my experience in the past. 2 cents worth.
I think that would be the intention, that there would always be a specific project, but I think there are a lot of really talented people in our community, and I think there's a lot of very generous people in our community. It's just getting the idea of how to put all of this together, because what we're doing now isn't working. We aren't raising any money. And I think that this is a way to take it out of city staff's hands for a little while and bring in people that have the experience.
Yeah, basically this would serve as what in other organizations may be a staff role, but you just have a committee kind of filling that to do the work instead of hiring someone to do that work. So essentially that's what this committee would serve as. So it's no, yeah.
Any other comments? Okay,
Did we do citizen comments? Mr. Snyder?
I'm sorry, citizens comments.
Somebody's gonna volunteer.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where someone says, take one step forward and everyone takes a step back.
I have to go home.
No,
I'll bring a detailed plan.
Thank
Not
you.
detailed, but more concise based on your conversations.
Any comments from Zoom?
No.
I think we're ready for the city manager's report. then.
Okay, so things are going well in the city as far as administrative operations. DPW has a lot of snow to push in January and early February so far, so it's been a lot of work, but we did put a graphic in the newsletter with kind of showing, you know, how to shovel and how to prevent the second shovel. So when we shovel and the snowplow comes, plowed it into your driveway, so just kind of giving a graphic on how to shovel your curb cut driveway. But anyway, so we are preparing bids for chip sealing project on several streets. City Christmas tree was removed. We have sent out letters to customers who are on the city's drip list, so be aware for that. And of course, standard, we do have sledding events still going on at Kiwanis, so February 15th and March 1st are the next dates for the sledding at Kiwanis. Sledding and s'mores. And I did mention the Harbor Commission meeting earlier. We also do have planning commission meetings twice a month. The last planning commission meeting, as Chairman Bill Mulder said, they kind of honed in on a town hall schedule and discussed the zoning code process. We did, Lucas and I met with the Watershed Council to discuss installment of litter traps. So the Watershed Council has catch basins that they got a grant for that we can install in storm sewer to catch any kind of pollutants, like plastics, whatever. So they're gonna do the work and we will install them. They'll do the work and examining them. So it's kind of a little trial purposes. So we have some sanitary sewers where we do not have any traps, so this are catch basins, so this will help. So that's great. We'll probably have a presentation from the Watershed Council later spring, early summer about this, so it's more of a public awareness. Did just lose. Oops. Now it's just my pup was not plugged in. But basically that's it. I do wanna say one thing is, I'm not sure if it's the same manager report, but Ms. Karen Allfield did recognize that I do not live in the city limits. She pointed that out, and thank you for pointing that out, Karen. 95% plus of our staff do not live in the city limits, and we are hired professionals to do our jobs. Council hires us to recommend improvements to the city and to maintain the city in order. So while I might not live in the city, that's my job. So if you're trying to make some sort of comparison that you live in the township and I live in the township, well, that's what my role is there. So, and I know you know that because you've attended and given so much valuable comment at our RRC committee meetings. You've actually helped with our economic development strategy and other things. So I really appreciate your input there. Thank you. That's all I have.
So I guess we're on the city council little business. Anyone have anything? I had a couple of items. I know a citizen had mentioned this prior meeting, but I really thought about it too. I would like to investigate having meeting packets and minutes archived on our website. I think it's just one more step for transparency. And I know Victor had mentioned, we don't have the capability now, I believe, storage space on our website for that, but I would like to, and I don't even know if we need to make this an agenda item or if we can just by consensus direct Victor to, if you all agreed, to direct Victor to investigate, if it's a matter of storage space, how much would that cost? If it's a matter of time, how much time would it take someone to do this on a monthly basis for all the boards and commissions? I'm not saying to go back and do every single one from the past, but maybe start with January of 2025. I just think it would be nice for our community to have a nice, neat place where they could go, download minutes and packets of past meetings, and the council then can determine is it worth the cost or is it worth somebody's time. So I just think that that's really important for our community and would aid in the transparency and just make one more thing available for our residents and non-residents and anyone that wishes. I don't know how you all feel in the future.
I can look into it. I know our website, a lot of city websites do have a page dedicated to, agenda, minutes and packet. Not all, but a lot of them do. From my understanding, when our website was set up in 2018, it was set up in a way where you put the agenda and the packet on and then it goes away once the new packet is updated. So I'd have to work with our website administrator to see if there's an easier way to do it. I don't think it would be a whole lot of time if we had to go backwards, that would cause more time commitment, but if we going forward 2025, I don't think it's a huge time commitment, it's like one extra step. For every single board and commission, I'll have to look at that, but I can bring to you. Yeah, I'll talk to the website administrator.
Would it be okay with you all?
I agree with that. I also think it could be beneficial to put a link to the YouTube video there as well, because when I go back and try to find old meetings on my phone, it's impossible. On my computer, I have a little more luck, but
Not much.
there's not a lot of consistency as how the dates are stated. So it would be really helpful if going forward, we could also have a link to the YouTube.
The other item I had, and maybe this is more of a council agenda item possibly. We all represent a board and commission, and Victor does a little roundup summary of the various boards and commissions, kind of like just adjacent to his city manager report. I believe that we should, as council members, we're all representatives on a board or commission, and most of us are, that we should be responsible for giving that update to council. You know, I'm not talking about each taking like 30 minutes or something, maybe a minute or two, just to go around the table. I was at planning commission at our meeting on January 23rd. You know, this is what we talked about, this is what we're doing. Boom. Next. I just think that that's good. It shows that we're engaged in our boards and commissions, and that's a big responsibility of ours to attend those and to, I think, report back on it. But I don't know, again, if we need to hold that into our agenda items or.
It's already an agenda item, and I think that was the purpose of having boards and commissions as a separate agenda item for council members to do. But they, you know, hasn't been done that way in several years, so I think it's a good idea. And plus, I don't attend all of the meetings, so, you know, I communicate with staff, and it's good for the council representatives to hear that feedback.
I think it's a good idea.
Certainly, you know, if we were to leave something out or forgot something in, you know, someone was here, oh, don't you remember this happened? Oh, yeah, that happened. Sorry. Okay. Well, at this time, I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 9:01.